Eddie Hearn joins us. We're going to obviously talk about Dalton Smith, Sam Maxwell, but we've not caught up for a long time. Quickly, New Orleans, New York, sum them up.
Yeah, New Orleans was fun. Main event was a bit disappointing. I feel like Zorro really didn't come to fight. Regis was a little bit disappointed as well. But on to bigger fights, and I think that's where you're going to see the best of him. New York was unbelievable, incredible show from top to bottom. I mean, the heavyweight fight was like, crazy. Lacked a bit of skill, but the heart in
could have been stopped like 4 times.
Yeah,
they just
probably
kept
should have been, and then he just kept coming back into it. Great performance from Riviera, Reshat Mati in a good fight. Khalil Ko looked sensational. I thought Edgar Berlanga boxed well. I think the criticism, he should have stepped on the gas, but I thought Quigley looked really good. I spoke to him the other day. I think up at 168. Boxed smart, boxed the right fight, and without the 4 knockdowns, it sounds like a one-sided fight. It was competitive.
It's close without that. It's close on the score. What do you do next with Berlanga? So many good fights for
I love
at
the
168.
Munguia fight. I think you look at Jaime Munguia, he's been lacking those big fights. Boxed Derevchenko last time out, who's faded. You got Mexico against Puerto Rico, 2 guys that are in their prime, 2 young fighters. I feel like it's a tremendous fight. So that's the one we'll be trying to make, and hopefully DAZN can turn the screw and make sure it gets done.
Can you make it, Oscar De La Hoya?
Mate, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, they told me, Eddie, they said that when you reach superstardom, you're going to get these scary kind of stalker guys that sort of follow you around and obsess over you, and that seems to be Oscar De La Hoya at the moment. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. I mean, the guy's like a pound-for-pound legend. What does he want to worry about me for? Yeah. His whole Twitter feed is Eddie Hearn, Eddie Hearn, Eddie Hearn. So
what
it's flattering. I don't know. We had that the other day with John Fury. He went mad at me, and they went, "What's he said? What's he done?" He went, "Nothing." But, must just be my face or something. I don't know what it is, but I think Munguia's career's been awfully managed, awfully promoted. But now it's time. He's a good fighter. He's an undefeated fighter. And I think if Oscar doesn't look at a fight like that and say, that's the right fight for our guy, then he's totally lost the plot, which he may have already done anyway. But we'll see. Brilliant fight.
Yeah, and that does big MSG as well. When you think of
that's the fight you want.
That's the one.
I just think it's the fight. I think it's a dangerous fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight.
Both punches, both strong.
Yeah. I mean, I seem to get a lot of criticism in America for making tough fights or getting my fighters beat. Do you know what I mean? And maybe Berlanga gets beat in that fight. I don't think so. I mean, it's brave of me to say let's roll the dice. But Berlanga, Edgar and the team feel like they win that fight. Like you said, it's a fight that can do the big room at the Garden. It's a fight that can do massive numbers. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't
see... So Berlanga wants it.
Wants it bad. He's 26 though. He had 16 consecutive first round knockouts. Okay. Right? So, and now all of a sudden he's gone the distance, I think 4 times back to back. Yeah. So now he's banking rounds. That was actually really good for him on Saturday. But I just don't like, there's so much hypocrisy in boxing where it's like, make the big fights, make the competitive fights, then you make them and someone gets beat and everyone goes, oh, you shouldn't have put him in that fight, that's terrible matchmaking. I don't really understand it. I just want to see a great fight. The atmosphere in there on Saturday was sold out, it was electric. We can take that into the big room in one of the top fights in boxing between 2 great young undefeated fighters. Yeah. Let's get it made.
It's a shame you mentioned the Hulu Theatre. It's a shame you mentioned the Hulu Theatre. They're talking about shutting it down, Hulu Theatre.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. New opening for the Penn Station, which would be a gutter because for me it's one of the best venues. I mean, not just the building, but even that theatre. And that theatre is kind of the way that you graduate to the big room.
Yeah, agreed.
So hopefully it can stay intact. If not, we just have to make bigger fights and move next door.
No problem. Me and Tony were talking before you came about AJ White. We're both kind of 50-50 on whether or not it happens. Does it happen?
I'm a bit confused because, it's always concerning when you send an email, an offer, and 10 minutes later, the guy's on TalkSport or Sky Sports News talking about, you know what I mean? I don't know. They came back and they said, we're not prepared to do any promotion for the fight, and we're not prepared to take any rematch clause. The rematch clause, people have to understand in sport and in business, and Tony will know that. For a fighter of AJ's magnitude, who has a $50 or $60 million fight planned in December, it's really not that unique to be having a rematch clause in a fight like that. Saying that, not really breaking news because I'll come on to that in a minute, AJ turned around yesterday and went, I don't need a rematch clause. And I said, well, you got the Wilder fight, so you should really. He went, no. If he don't want to, just tell him, no rematch clause. Okay. So we went back and said, no rematch clause. You've got to do the standard promotion. Come on, I can't not do a fight with no. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I went back and said, no rematch clause, just standard promotion. here's the contract, sign it. 10 minutes later, that was on Sky Sports News again this morning. It's like, I just don't know what's real and what's not. So this way, we're flushing it all out. You've got everything you asked for, sign the contract. And if not, we'll announce another fight for AJ on Saturday, because we're ready to go with 2 or 3 guys. But he wants to, like, he's made it clear to me. I've said to him, I don't think this fight gets made. And he said, well, why not? I said, look, it's the rematch. I said, take it all out. Just give him the contract and see if he'll sign it or not.
Okay.
So I think AJ just wants to flush it out and say, there it is, let's sign.
So you got your terms, Dillian Whyte. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
If it's not Dillian Whyte, does AJ still fight August 12th?
Yes, I think he must. You know, I think we've got meetings tonight in London and tomorrow with Saudi representatives to close the Deontay Wilder deal. I just said to AJ the other day, look, you will be a better fighter going into the December fight if you box on August 12th, right? You'll have more confidence, you'll be more in the flow, you'll have more momentum. It is a risk.
More time at
like, and you know, the fight with Dillian Whyte's a big fight, but money-wise, it's dwarfed by the Wilder fight. So it's easy to look at it and say, I could blow the Wilder fight, but we're not. You know, money's not really the driver here. It's winning, and to prepare yourself in the best way to win in December, he should box on August 12th.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. We'd like to announce on Saturday, probably maybe even on the broadcast, but let's see.
Let's see, indeed. Other big news was Canelo moving over to PBC. It looks like he signed a 3-fight deal. You've done good business with Canelo. You've promoted a lot of his recent fights. Surprised he's gone over, or is it a case of the fights just couldn't be made for him?
They asked me to try and look at the Bivol fight. I couldn't get that moving. I didn't have a fight for him. I didn't have an offer for him. So what's he going to do? You know, and I think over there, I don't think there's any. I think it looks like Charlo, but I don't think it's any concrete fights after that. But there are 2 or 3 guys that he could fight, and he's probably at the stage of his career where he says, "There's, I mean, who knows what happens after 3 fights with Sal." So we've had a tremendous run. You know, I will say that the clickbait's unbelievable. You know, someone asked me the other day, "Oh, well, how did DAZN feel about it?" I said, "Look, obviously they'd like to keep him, but not every Canelo fight is always a success numbers-wise." Next thing, Eddie Hearn, Canelo wasn't a success. It's like. He's a big success. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport. Yeah. He's a legend. He's amazing to work with. But everything's about timing, and I think this was the right time for him. Yeah,
some other news as well that's just dropped. Jessica McCaskill versus Sandy
Great
Ryan.
Fight, yeah.
Very, very good fight.
I mean, look, we talk about the difficulty of some men's fights getting made. The females keep on trumping us, because it's like, right, do you want to fight that champion? Yep. Right, let's announce it, and that's a really good fight. I mean, what's Sandy Ryan had? 7 fights or something like that? Now she's 1 belt away from being completely undisputed. It's a 50-50 fight. McCaskill's super strong, and could land in America, that fight as well.
All right, let's get to what we're here for. Dalton Smith versus Sam Maxwell, British and Commonwealth 140-pound belts up for grabs. This is a good fight.
Really good fight. This is kind of like an old school fight. Now we tend to bring over a lot of international opposition. This is just 2 very talented British fighters going for the British and Commonwealth title. The dynamics of these guys really, grew up together, but in a boxing sense, grew up at Team GB, just across the road here. They know each other very well. Sam Maxwell was highly touted, highly regarded, lost that fight for the IBO World Championship, come back since. He's a good puncher. Dalton Smith's coming off the back of 2 okay performances, but against lower level opposition. And I think this is where you're going to see the best of him. This is where you're going to see him chomping at the bit against the game opponent. Tony knows, very talented Sam Maxwell, very good fighter. And I think it's a really good domestic fight.
Tony, how good is Sam?
Very, very good. You know, thoroughbred amateur, been right through the GB circuit. He's been long and established. Him and Dalton have only ever sparred once, and that was as Sam was on his way out the door and Dalton was on his way into the GB setup. So I don't think there'll be too much to read into that. But for someone like Sam, you can never cross him off. He has that punch. It's as simple as that. Dalton won't come across a bigger puncher as Sam until he gets past European level. I don't think. So he's going to have to be very switched on, very clever. As I've said before, I'm super impressed with Dalton Smith, and the thing that impressed me with him is his judgment at distance. I don't think he's the biggest puncher, I don't think he's the quickest fighter, but his judgment at distance is second to none. And I think, that might be the difference on Saturday night.
Eddie, when you look at your stable, is Dalton one of those fighters that you think, okay, this guy, if all goes right, should get to world level, should be fighting for world titles?
Yeah, and you look at this city particularly dying out for a run from a local fighter, and I think he's got the ability to do it. This is the kind of fight where we're really going to find out, because if he cruises through Sam Maxwell, beats him well, you've got to say that he's ready for those sort of world-class fighters. Not the elite guys yet, but
fringe
the top
guys,
15 guys.
European.
I mean, when you look at our roster at 140, it's unbelievable. You know, Regis Prograis, Jack Catterall, Liam Paro, Stevie Spark, Montana Love, Richardson Hitchens have probably missed some out as well, you know, and he can slot right into the mix with those guys. Maybe not the Regis Prograis just yet, but 2 or 3 fights, that's where it's got to be, and we can bring those big fights to Sheffield. But I think we're going to get a really tasty one on Saturday, because I think there's a lot of pride for both guys. Sam Maxwell needs to win this fight, really, for his career, and Dalton Smith needs to win it, and win it well, to make a statement. Yeah,
Dalton Smith, obviously a very good prospect. Another good prospect is Pat McCormack, who everyone thinks is really going to go all the way. And me and you were talking, if he doesn't, it's down to Pat, really, isn't it?
The only person
first 10 rounder.
Yeah. I think when you look at the card, this card is sort of seeing a lot of our young stars. I mean, Janae Boston, I think is a sensational talent. Even before the bell with Beatrice Ferreira, for me, pound for pound, one of the top female fighters in the world right now. Hopi Price, looking for a statement in a good domestic fight as well. And Pat McCormack is, you know, one of those guys that if he doesn't fight for a world title or win a world title, we're all wasting our time, because I see this kid in the Olympics. You know, I see this kid on the amateur scene, probably one of the best fighters Britain's produced for a long time. He's going to have a huge following in the North East. I like what Tony Dixon's saying. You know, I mean, it's going to be a really solid test for him. But again, I just feel like these guys with the top pedigree are going to shine against someone that's coming to win. Tony Dixon will do that, and I think you'll see a special performance from Pat McCormack at the weekend.
Final one for me, Eddie. I know we've got to let you go. When's the announcement going to come of the next schedule of fights for DAZN and Metro?
So we're trying as early as this weekend. I mean, I got a call yesterday to say, oh, can we announce the 7 or 8 shows on Saturday? And it's like, okay, so we're really up against it contractually, but we're trying to get it all over the line. I think latest next week, 4-hour slate in August, September, October, November and December. There'll be more to add in, but I think you'll get 6 or 7 of those fight dates already penned in, so we can say to DAZN subscribers, look what we've got coming up, and you're going to be really impressed. You're going to love it.
You know what I liked? I said final one. What I liked, I saw what you said about PBC in terms of it being their year or the start of the year. I know that means you're going to come back hungry for the end of the year. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, when you talk about it's my year, halfway through the year, and they've had a go. By the way, I don't look at those 3 fights they've made and go, damn. I look at it and go, fantastic. You know, 1, because it's great for boxing. 2, because it gives us a kick up the backside and makes DAZN more aggressive as well. So it's good for fight fans. It's good for the industry when big fights are getting made. Obviously, with Saul not fighting in September on DAZN, all of a sudden we have a little bit of a war chest that we can look at. The fights that work, not just going and making fights for the sake of it, but big fights that work. And I think now, you know, we can look at that budget potentially and bring 3 or 4 major fights to the platform, as well as our schedule in the UK and America, the standard stuff as well. And you know, already in the UK, you know, we're looking at 2 massive World Championship fights in October and November. Obviously, AJ August the 12th. Some big stuff in September, and December we've got Bam against Sonny Edwards, and much more to come.
And maybe even a WBC.
Before he just runs off, just give us an idea of who.
Yeah, but when I do that, it kind of softens the announcement.
Doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. You've got to tease them a little bit, Tony. You've got to tease them a little bit.
I mean, there's a couple that have already been spoken about. I mean, the couple that we've already been spoken about from a UK point of view is obviously Lee Wood against Josh Warrington.
Big one.
You know, big British
City ground, sold out.
Championship fight. Then you've got the rematch, Taylor against Cameron in Ireland as well. Regis Prograis against Devin Haney stateside is a fight we definitely want to try and make as well. Berlanga against Munguia in the main room at the Garden. I mean, there's loads to nail. So thanks for that, Tone. We've just given about 50% of the
maybe a WBC Bridgerweight title.
Got to make Bridgerweight first, isn't it?
You're saying, mate.
He might sling me over this thing.
Top man, Eddie. Thanks a lot.